So what Howard is going to present will cover, what we currently know. He'll reference materials from last year's funding competition and take questions from all of you. But apologies in advance that we don't have the information that HUD has not yet provided. We will send the slides. I'm happy we can share these slides out with anyone after this webinar. We're using a Microsoft form to collect everyone's emails. And so Rosa's going to drop a link in the chat. If you could just click that link and put your email in so that it'll pull a list for me so that I can easily send it out to everyone who wants it after this. So please just put your email in that form to let me know that you want the slides. Much appreciated. We do have other webinars coming up later this week. We have one scheduled on Wednesday that will focus on transition grants. And then we have office hours on Friday. So that webinar on Friday there's no formal presentation. That time is set aside for anyone that wants to come and talk with the CoC planning team, including our consultants from Housing Innovations. So please, I will send the information for those out to all of you with the information from this webinar once it finishes. So please attend the webinars, come to office hours. Oh, great. Thank you, Rosa. She included the information that's on our calendar. The 2 upcoming webinars are on our calendar. So you can grab those from there too. But please feel free to come to the transfer webinar, come to office hours to talk to us, or reach out to me and Rosa, send me an email or give me a phone call and let me know if you would like to talk. We are available to give you any support and guidance that we can through this process. And now I will turn it over to Howard.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Sarah. Glad to be here. Much as I, couldn't hold myself back from saying, we had every expectation, believing that given the deadlines that HUD has imposed on us, that they would make it possible for us to sort of start the application process and really fully understand what is going to be required for these applications. But obviously, they're busy with other things than getting that information out to the public. So we'll do the best we can. This session was really focused on eSNAPs and how to use that very idiosyncratic system that HUD uses for the grants process. What Sarah referenced earlier, the session that we're doing on Wednesday is really going to talk about this whole process of transitioning grants. We know, of course, that HUD has got this crazy ceiling of no more than 30% of our renewal amount can go to permanent housing. So obviously, we've got to make major changes to a significant number of permanent housing grants. And that session will really talk about, both the process of making those changes and also some issues of substance that you need to address if you're going to consider making that, in order to make that kind of a change, there really is not very much choice in how the HUD has this structured thus far. So with that said, let me just talk about some of this eSNAP stuff. I think that I may there's nothing greater than presenting like this while your dog is puking just over your shoulder. So I will now, which goes well with this. He knows. Okay, so this year, as I said before, HUD has established this process. This is not us. These are not our deadlines. This is strictly what they have said. I've been going through this NOFO process for decades, ever since they started it. I think maybe once or twice they changed the deadline once they published it. So, I mean, that might happen. They've never taken this long to release information, but on the other hand, they have plenty of precedent for them never changing that deadline. So we have to assume that they're going to stick to this January 14th deadline. So they say we have to have our deadline has got to be at least 30 days before that. That's either going to make it Sunday or Monday. So the decision was made, let's just get it done by the end of next week. So the expectation is these applications would be submitted in this application system called eSNAPs by next Friday. that's the way it stands now. And then on top of that, we have a very, very short period of time, that coincides both with Christmas and New Year's to review those applications. There are going to be a lot of new ones, and then give people feedback and let folks know, what the status is of their application vis-a-vis the Continuum of Care application. To say nothing of all the new requirements they're going to impose on the Continuum of Care application in terms of, coordination with treatment and other issues like that we have not previously had to address. Okay, now these will be the slides that we give out. HUD has, other than eSNAPs, which is where it's always been, HUD's really changed where you can find resources for this competition. So you've got that's this new HUD-partners community-CoC. That's where the information is now for it. Of course, if you went there 15 minutes ago, there would still be, no new information beyond the NOFO posted there. But when stuff is available, it'll be on this site. And then there are a couple of these instructional things about how to access eSNAPs through HUD. You'll find it interesting, the illustrations they give, the graphics, are pointing to the 2018 registration and application process. So you see they're quite up to date with their slides too. Now, there is for those of you who haven't been following this, there is a new thing with how eSNAPs operates now. It's those of you who've been drawing down funds through ELOCs know this already. They've got this lockout period every 90 days. They've never had this with eSNAPs before. Historically, as long as you remember your password from a year ago, you could have not accessed the system and you go right in. Now, if you haven't accessed it within the last 90 days, the odds are you're going to be locked out of the system. And if that happens, you've got to do this email to e-snaps at hud.gov. This is another one of my pet peeves. HUD varies all over the place, whether they put that hyphen in the eSNAPs thing or not. But on this email thing, which is very important to get back into the system, you've got to make sure you use that hyphen to get back to them. So and strangely, it really is a manual recovery process, so that a human being has got to reset the thing for you. So try to avoid getting locked out of the system at all by making sure you access it every 90 days. And also, also, if you ever try to log in, it says incorrect password. Don't keep entering in passwords. You'll get locked out of the system after 3 tries. There is a link right below it that says forgot password. Just click on that and you will be in much better, you'll be able to just reset your password and get right into the system that way. It works much better. Okay, so if you are new to the eSNAP system, as I said, I'm trying to illustrate here, it really is born in the days of the floppy disks, and it operates, in a very, very antiquated fashion. So, in any event, this is their information. It's their electronic platform. They say they intend to totally revamp it, but it's going to take them a while until that happens. So it remains the system that we are using. The first thing is, if you've never been in the eSNAP system at all, you do not have a username, then when you go to this esnaps.hud.gov portal, what you'll do is you'll click on the bottom there where it says create a profile. And in order to create a profile in eSNAPs, you need to have both a username, which can be, whatever name works for you. You need an email address, any valid email address, and then you need a password. The password is something that you keep entirely to yourself. The email address and the username is information you need to give to whoever is the lead at your CoC in order to access the eSNAPs account. And when you log into eSNAPs, that's what you're seeing on the right-hand side of the screen here. In fact, I'm going to show you this in real life here. Here you are. Now we are logged into eSNAPs here, and we're on the Applicants tab. So if you are this person, what you would do is click on Registrants here. And when you do that, I'm not going to reveal this information, but when you click on that registrants, there'll be a paperclip that happens up at the top there. Just click on that paperclip, enter in the username and the email address of the people you want to add to your organization's eSNAPs account, and they will be added to your thing. It's recommended that you always have at least 2 people part of that eSNAPs account, because somebody could be missing, somebody could not be around. And as long as one person can access it, they can add other people onto your account. If you've got nobody linked to the account, then you're going to have to send an email into HUD on your agency letterhead requesting access to that eSNAPS account and identify the authorized people that you want to link to it. Then once you've got people linked to your account, the other thing that you want to do each year, remember this is your menu here on the left-hand side, applicants, funding opportunities, registrations, projects, and submissions. You probably remember this. You want to start at your applicant profile, which is here. Clicking on that orange folder there opens up the applicant profile. Then you always go to the submission summary. This is something you do each year. Now you see these are all check marks. When you first open yours, you'll probably find an X in one of these boxes. When you find an X, you just click on whatever tab it is that's associated with that X, and it'll bring you to the screen. Now, in order to make any changes on any of those screens, you have to click this edit button down here, and that'll open up those screens in order for you to make changes in here. You want to always check that the authorized representative is the correct person for your organization. They're going to get the emails from HUD. If there's ever what they call a curable deficiency in your application, they're going to notify that authorized representative, and HUD will contact you. If that's not a person who is active in your organization or is really familiar with what's going on with your CoC application, you want to make sure that they do know that, because when HUD writes them, they'll give you like 7 days to respond, and if you don't respond within that time period, you're going to lose the application. So very important that the authorized representatives are as accurate. Also, this new screen, indirect cost information. So if you have not been in eSNAPS in the past year or so, you will have this new screen to fill out, which will be about whether you intend to claim indirect costs in your application. If you do intend to claim them, you must complete this screen. And then once you've completed all of those things, come back to this screen submission summary, and it will now say, where it's saying edit, it will then say submit, and just click on that submit or complete. It'll be one of those things, but click on that button, and then you'll be completed the applicant profile. Then for those of you who are familiar with, oh, Kirsten.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to ask a quick question, because I did go into this to update our profile and do those steps. The form 2880.
Yeah.
I noticed like in this, there's a part 2 of that where it asks you other government assistance provided or requested. I have it open right here, so I'm looking at it, or expected sources and use of funds. It looks like is that something new that has to be filled out, or was that there before?
It's always been there. It's always been acceptable for you to say none and
Well,
enter.
Yeah, that's what we had
Yep.
before, but I just wanted to make sure that that's still okay. Okay.
Yep. I have seen this form completed like every which way,
Okay.
from Thursday to Sunday. I've never seen, obviously it's important, they wouldn't include it all the time, but I've never seen HUD boot it back for any reason. So you've got to complete it, and NA and 00 will complete it, and especially because if you don't have any firm other commitments, and so that's fine. But yes, you're usually expected to update that form as well.
Okay. The other question I had was for the code of conduct.
Yeah.
I mean, it brings up the last time that we attached it. Is there a certain date that they won't accept? I mean, it says that it's accepting, but like ours was attached in like 2016.
Yeah, it should be every 5 years.
Okay. So we probably do need to update that.
Yeah. Let me go back into, I actually did a slide on that. I drifted off here, but yes, that's really important to make sure, because that's one of those curable deficiencies, and that curable deficiency happened to folks more than once last year. And again, it's if nothing else, it's very stress inducing, because they really do say you've got to respond. In 1 year, basically, they were issuing those notices on like December the 24th and giving you like 5 days in which to get it completed. And that was like challenging for some folks. So,
okay. Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. In fact, where's my, sorry.
Because it also on the next screen, it gives you like a website link to like where you find the
Yep,
code of
here.
conduct
Here
with
it is.
FUD, with HUD or whatever. And when you
Yep.
click on the link, it's like there's nothing there.
Oh,
Like
okay.
so
Well,
many of the HUD sites right now.
yeah. So I just these links, and we're sending out these slides. So these links work. This definitely gets you to the
Okay, good.
HUD code of conduct webpage, and that link to that template code of conduct is still there. So really, it's kind of easy to come, and you know, these things are stuff that you automatically would do. I mean, you know, you're not, you know, you don't have people personally profiting from the
Right.
actions of your organization. So yeah, but it's very, I'm glad you brought that up. It's really important. Check it. And what you want to do is there is a link when you go to that first one on the HUD website, there's a link to their code of conduct e-library, and you need to make sure that your code of conduct is in that e-library. And if it's not, you've got to follow these instructions about uploading it to HUD.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And that's a good thing to do while we're sitting around waiting for the
right. Yeah.
the application to become available. That's for sure. So this is also, as we indicated here, there's this whole new screen that we've never had before in the applicant profile that you need to complete if you wish to claim indirect costs. In addition to this, you're going to need to say that once again in the individual project applications. So just bear that in mind if you're claiming it. And last year, at least, HUD had not quite updated the thing to show the 15% de minimis, but perhaps they have at this point. Oh, and this is that HUD 2880. So where you're talking about the severance assistance, but that's, you know, again, it's totally legitimate not to have other sources of funds. In that case, just say NA and under the amount, put 0. Yeah, we have all this stuff. So let me go back into the eSnaps thing again and show you what's supposed to happen here. So when you're in eSnaps, now when you've done your applicant profile, this funding opportunity registration step, the second one down, this thing that's in bold here, that's the one you want to click on. There should be, where you see these check marks, there's going to be a form with a check mark that's going to say CoC New Project Application FY2025, CoC Renewal Project Application FY2025, YHDP, blah, 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 for all of these. So they're going to be forms that are not currently here because they haven't loaded them in here. And all you need to do on these things is click that check mark. But it is the first thing that you need to do is click that check mark, and that will register you for the new project thing. Again, if you're transitioning from an existing permanent housing to a transitional housing, probably you're going to register for the new project application funding opportunity. If you've got a renewal project, obviously, and we have enough funding to renew that PH project, you're going to register for the CoC renewal project application. And that's all it's going to say. And then you're going to get, do you wish to register for the thing? And you click a box that says yes. And then you go down to this projects thing. This is how you start the application. Again, it would have to exist for you to do this. But now what you would do here is filter where it says all funding opportunities. You see how it says new project opportunity up to FY24. Once they open up the registration thing, you're going to be able to filter for new project application FY2025. We can't do that now. Same thing here. You'll be able to filter for renewal project application FY2025. And that's what you want to do, is filter for that. You know, we have one here because we're looking at the last one, but basically once you filtered for FY2025, there'll be no projects listed here. And that's when you click on this plus, which will open up this opportunity for you to name this project. And again, the convention that we try to use is, you know, FY2025, whatever your project name is, probably your applicant name in there as well, so it's easy to identify the projects. This was, if it is a renewal project, you are allowed to import the data from your prior year's application. That's what that box that says import data from is. If it is a renewal, you really want to, this is a mistake I definitely made. If it's a renewal project, you want to name it, and then you want to do that import data from. and then you want to hit save. For me, it is a temptation. Once I've given a thing a name, I want to save it because I want to make sure the name is there. And once you've done that, you can't do anything else more. You can't import the data or anything like that. So name it, import the data, and then hit save, or save and add another, depending on what it is that you're doing. But that's how you get started in the project application when there are projects for you to be project applications to be able to register for. Then you go down to the submissions thing, as you always have done in the past. And this is where you want to remember what you just named your project, because then you can use this filter thing to, and there's a lot of applications here, but you can basically filter through all the project applications that are associated with your organization, find that FY2025, whatever it is that you named it, and just when it's in that box, applicant project name box, then you hit the filter and it'll identify your project will come up, and it'll be the only orange envelope or orange folder like that you can open, and that'll open up the project application for you. Now, so I just kind of walked you through these steps here real time, as it were. So these are all the things that you could have registered through before. So we've covered that stuff. And this is the importing the data. So this is the other thing I wanted to say is, once you do, again, you'll remember this, but at least historically, the way that it's always worked, HUD the entire application doesn't immediately open up. You have to complete a number of preliminary screens before it allows you to do that. And one of among the information you need to provide is, project start and end dates. Remember, these grants are all going to start in fiscal year 26 and end in calendar year 26 and end in calendar year 27. If it's a renewal application, again, historically, almost everybody was doing nothing but renewal applications. That's not going to be the case this year. But you have these opportunities to do these renewal without changes things. At least you have historically been able to do that. So again, if it's a renewal, consider doing it. It saves you a lot of work in the application process. If you're doing a new project application, you've got to enter in all the data. There's nothing to import data from, because the system does not recognize a prior application. These are screens. If you aren't doing that renewal without changes, you are going to have this screen here. By the way, if your grant has been changed because of reallocation, which may happen with some of our renewal grants as well, there may be a reduction in them. If that is the case, you want to make sure that you say yes on this screen here. If your grant is reduced through reallocation, you have a lot of flexibility in making budgetary changes on a renewal grant. Otherwise, if it's a renewal grant, you basically really need to follow very much what is shown in the grant inventory worksheet, only making those 10% budget line item minor changes to those grants. Otherwise, renewals stay the same. Again, as I said, unless it's a reallocation where you can make significant changes to the budget. This is, if you want to make any other changes, you have to click these boxes in this submission without changes system. We used to do a number of consolidation grants. I don't know that it's going to happen that much in this case, but if you've got, one or more renewal grants, as long as it's the same grantee and the same component, permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, etc., you can consolidate them into a single grant. We are going to talk about the transitioning to transitional housing, but also the transition grant process on Wednesday. If you are doing a transition, let's say you have 2 permanent housing projects now and they can't continue, you can submit a transition grant, which is a new project application that will basically take 1 or more. So you can do 2 or more renewal permanent housing applications and convert them into a single new project application, which could be for transitional housing. So I think in the most instances, whereas in years past we use consolidation to combine renewals, we might use the transition process in some instances to combine renewals, but to change them entirely to new applications. And there's some limitation. It's inconceivable that there could be, as many as 10 that would go through the transition process. There are, New project applications are going to have to complete the full project applications. Just a sort of a key here, by the way, assuming they continue with these same forms about supportive services, this may be familiar, but if you say that in this case, the provider, you as the grantee is, or you, the applicant, I'm sorry, if the applicant is going to provide any of these services or a subrecipient, then you're going to want to make sure that there is a corresponding entry on the budget, on the supportive services budget for that service. So if you're saying you, the applicant or the subrecipient, is providing case management services, you want to be sure that on the supportive services budget line, you're requesting funding for for case management, or you've clearly addressed in the narrative how that funding is going to be paid for from another source, because they will look for consistency there. And again, you will, by the way, if it is a renewal grant, you should have the same number of units as shown in the grant inventory worksheet. Make sure they've got these forms that are very confusing that talk about the number of units and the number of beds. Make sure that there is a relationship between the number of households served. There should be a unit in the application for each household is served, and there should be a bed indicated in the application for each number of persons served. What else? As I said, if it is a renewal or a transition grant, remember, is when it's an eligible renewal applicant and they're converting the grant, then they cannot ask for more than is shown on the grant inventory worksheet. So that is a limitation on transition and renewals. If it is a new project application, then the only limitation is available project funds. As I indicated before, if it is a renewal, you need to follow the budget lines on the grant inventory worksheet, unless it is a reallocation, in which case you're free to make significant changes. If it is a transitional application or a new project application, there's the budget, you're creating a brand new budget. So whatever works on that budget is going to be, what you are applying for. And, with the only caveat is that you can only ask for what is reasonable. What else can I tell? Well, the match, we know. Need to document it. You will need to document each year. You might, under transitional housing, you may generate more program income if you're charging an occupancy fee to participants. If that is happening, that occupancy fee would be program income and could be applied toward match. And HUD certainly is open to charging folks an occupancy fee. And what else can I tell you? So again, as in the past, generally speaking, the renewals don't submit detailed budgets, but you will. Any new project application, including transition, will have to do a full budget form. Fair market rent's going to be based on the 2026 fair market rents. That's what you'll be funded at. Last year, HUD was very punky. They entered like the 2023 fair market rents into the system. I don't know why. So we'll see. But regardless of what the system says, that's what you're going to be funded for. Remember, sometimes, and now that the de minimis rate is 15%, it's less likely to be confused with the administrative thing. But remember, the program administrative fee is different than indirect costs. Program administrative fee really it's considered a direct cost by HUD. It really is the costs for directly administering the grant. It also covers the costs of doing environmental assessments. It covers pro rata shares of program audits, things like that. But anything charged on the program admin cost line should have documentation associated with it. There should either be staff time performing administrative functions or funding to some third party like the auditors. Indirect costs, it's different. Indirect costs are based on your agency coming up with an allocation of cost and separating a separate indirect cost pool. And you want to make sure that anything you're charging under your indirect cost pool, you're not also charging under your admin cost line, because that would be double counting. But you're eligible to ask for up to 10% in project administration costs. But remember, HUD is going to expect you to be able to document those costs. Let's see if after all of this, you all have any questions.
Any at all?
It's hard to have questions when we don't have an application.
It,
Yeah, that makes sense. But in the meantime, applicant profiles, looking at codes of
Yeah.
conduct, and we will let you know as soon as we see application forms in eSnaps.
So I do have a question. I did notice that on the code of conduct, ours is, it says it's not mandatory and do not include.
Yeah, it's not like a required attachment in
Okay.
eSnaps, but it is required to be submitted to HUD at least every 5 years. So
Okay.
in the slide links, we will put a working link, and we could copy and paste it right into the chat here. Now, and you'll want to click on the link and look to see how current the
Okay.
your like Crossroads and your case choices code of conduct is, and then if you have not submitted one within the last, it's 5 years, right, Howard?
yes.
Within the last 5 years, then you would want to attach it there in your applicant profile. But because it's not required to be done every time you submit, they don't call it mandatory on that form.
Okay.
But they will give you it's not an issuing condition. It's
Deficiency.
called?
It's a
Deficiency,
curable,
yes.
a notification of curable deficiency.
Yeah, and I want to say we had like 5 orgs get a curable deficiency in Rhode Island last year for that. So
yeah,
it's
I
just,
feel like we were one of them.
oh, well, then you probably,
Well, then it's probably more recent.
then you probably are current this year. But you know, for all the applicant orgs, while we're all waiting and twiddling our thumbs, it would be a good thing to check.
Okay. Thanks.
It's like the cicadas, you know, they just come out every 5 years.
Any other questions?
So and be sure, as we said, go and make sure you can access eSnaps, because everybody under the sun is going to try and get in at the same time. And remember, who knows, hopefully this won't be the case. Sometimes it really slows down when there's a lot of users in the system at the same time. In the past, it could be horrible. So
Yep, make sure you've got at least 2 users on your agency's account, if not a lot more than 2. And I was just checking while you were talking, Howard, and they're still not in there. Forms, but we will let you all know as soon as they are. Well, nice seeing many of you.
Thank you,
Thanks
everyone.
thanks for keeping us updated.